I was rewatching the show, Henry Fool. Great acting work, Tom. And
Thank you.
I got to like hour and 15 minutes. When it first came out, I saw it a couple times. So yeah, it's really funny that there's this one scene, a little thing. The Republican type guy insults the guy at the corner store by calling him just immigrant. That's the whole.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think right before he says that, I mean, we can talk about this movie, but the movie is so prescient in so many ways. I mean, the way it talks about the internet, for example.
Yeah, that's where I stopped before I got off.
Yeah, first of all, I haven't watched it in years, but I did go back because I knew I was going to talk to you guys. I wanted to remember. And I read a little bit of the screenplay that they published at the time. And because my memory of it was that it was the greatest screenplay I'd ever read or would ever read.
Very good.
It's almost like a novel, you know, and it's amazing to me. None of us on the film had a computer, a home computer. None of us on the film really knew what he was talking about. I remember I have a line to Parker where I say, do you get the internet on that thing? And I don't think I even knew what I was even asking. I didn't even understand the idea of somebody's poetry catching fire on the internet is crazy. And that guy, Kevin Corrigan's part, what he says, you know, we're going to make America great again. We're going to, you know, it's come to pass, guys.
Yeah, completely out of the conservative Republican political playbook. And Hal Hartley did a great job on that script. It plays like a minimalist theater piece, but set in the real world, and a lot happens really fast. But let me stop talking. Let Ian start the proper shows. He is the proprietor of this little project.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great little preamble. I think we're going to keep that in because, you know, why not? But yeah, we are here.
It's a new film, be unconventional.
Yeah. So this is IndieSeen, the April edition of IndieSeen, and we are talking about, we're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. But we are very pleased to welcome Thomas J. Ryan, the
great
star,
actor.
Yes, great actor, and the star of Henry Fool, which I was doing my research. Officially came out like theatrically in 1998, but it made its Toronto International Film Festival debut in 1997, which technically makes this the 25th anniversary of Henry Fool. So it's crazy to think about.
Hal Hartley, 25th, do a special sale.
There you go.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I just want to find a way to get this. I know there was a Blu-ray box set of the trilogy that is like out of print now, and I still haven't been able to see Ned Rifle, the third film in the series, but I did watch Henry Fool and Faye Grimm. Yeah,
go to possiblefilms.com. I think that's the right address. I think
he sells them himself. I'm sure that's not out of print. I'm sure you can still buy that.
Yeah, great. Possiblefilms.com, I think.
All right. Well, so this, Thomas, I want to just kind of kick things off by confirming this was your first credited film. Is that right? What a hell of a debut. My first
time in front of a camera ever. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a great job. But before we get in, let's do the slow romance update that we.
Yes, thanks for keeping me on track.
There we go. So, Tom, we usually talk about whatever film projects I'm working on.
I know you do. I know you do. I've watched them. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, thanks for checking out all the podcasts, if any. I saw a really funny one between you and Adam Shartoff last night, where you guys were trying to remember the name of Barry Jenkins. You guys are like, who directed Medicine for Melancholy?
Did we really? It's so horrible. That's so horrible. But you know, I want to.
But it was 2018.
Oh yeah.
Before he won the Oscar, I was like, that's so hilarious. Anyway. Yeah, I'm making Slow Romance 2 now. We have Slow Romance 1 poster back here. It showed at Stewart Cinema in Greenpoint on Friday. A bunch of people showed up. They had a great time. Slow Romance 2 project is coming along well. I'm shooting it in April, May, and hopefully July we can show it. And eventually by then, I hope to have Slow Romance 1 on Blu-ray and on Amazon, perhaps it's already on Vimeo. I think that's the latest. Any questions, Ian, about the project?
Well, I'm curious about the premiere, the Brooklyn premiere that happened on Friday. Tell us about it.
Oh yeah, I was nervous. First time screening at that theater. They used to have 100 seats. Now they're down to 50 because after COVID. But everything went really well. Some noise issues. I need to remix some things because the projector is a little bit noisy. But otherwise, people had a great time. And Tom can attest to this. After seeing your own movie for like 100 times while editing, you kind of lose flavor. You're like, is this still funny? Is this boring, everyone? But people were laughing, and I had like 25% capacity. Everyone stayed for the Q&A. They had a great time. I'll send you a link if you want to see it, Tom.
I do. I definitely do.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like My Dinner with Andre, a little bit like Before Sunrise. Two New York filmmakers go on some dates, and they figure out how to end poverty worldwide. So there's a, sort of a global, far-reaching Henry Fool, Ned Rifle type, thing there. I'm sure I was heavily influenced by Hal Hartley and Jim Jarmusch movies. And also, Ian, you remember my movie Breakthrough Weekend?
Oh yeah, we talked about it.
I would like to bring that detective back. I think Tom would make a good actor for that role. I'll have to run it by him later.
Yeah,
you got it.
You got some homework to do, Tom.
Hey, I got a job already. This has been worth my time.
Awesome.
We haven't even talked.
That's right. All right, so that's the latest update. Yeah, it went really well. I'm really happy. Everyone who showed up were like actors and filmmakers and family and friends. That's fine. If my audience is going to be, fellow artists, that's great. I just need a few thousand people. That's all.
I love that. I love that.
Well, all right. So getting back to Henry Fool, Tom, how did that come together for you? You said that's the first time you've been in front of a camera. It's, as I mentioned, it's a hell of a debut because it's such a fascinating character in a movie full of fascinating characters, and you're the lead. So tell us about that.
And Hal Hartley was a big deal at the time, like a mainstream level, near mainstream level, big deal.
Well, he was in the period where he and Jim Jarmusch and a couple of others, I guess Richard Linklater, were sort of in the white heat of that sort of what was patronizingly known as the indie scene, New York scene of the early 90s. I was not in this world at all. I was a theater actor, and I was working a lot. First of all, this story I'm about to tell you is an amazing story, and it just doesn't ever happen to actors. And that it happened to me is remarkable. It's never happened again, and probably never will. But he anyway was a follower of this one director in theater that I worked with, Richard Foreman, in the sort of avant-garde experimental theater downtown. And I didn't know he watched these plays and that he had been coming to see them. I did 3 of them in a row over 92, 93, 94. And
how old were you?
I was 32, 30, 31, 32.
And early days in New York, right?
No, I had been long suffering by then. I had moved here when I was 21. And so that was right when my theater career sort of started to work. And that was really where I expected to stay. And the next play I did was with Elena Lowenson, the Romanian actress who did several of Hal's movies, Simple Men and then Amateur. And she said, well, he's coming to the play, to that play. And she said, he really likes you. He really thinks you're a good actor. He'd like to meet you afterward. So we sort of had a drink, and it was nice. It was exciting. He was a very important director. And I forgot about it. 6 months went by, and I was doing a really, really bad production of a Shakespeare play in Portland, Maine. Wrap your mind around that. That was not a good moment in my career. And it was a bad production. I got a phone call, and it was him. And he said, I've written a new movie. I'm going to make it next year. And there's a part for you if you're interested in doing movies. I always remembered him saying that, like somebody would say, no, I really would rather stay marginal. I really, you know. So I remember going out, anyway, he had to send it in an envelope. And that night, I remember going drinking with the cast and saying, you know, I'm so excited. I hope I have like lines. I mean, I hope I have like something that can't be cut out of the movie. I hope I'm not like just a waiter or something. I hope there's some like plot point or something where I have a couple lines that have to stay in. And then I got it. And it was just like, it fell out of the sky onto my head. And he did not want me to audition for it. He didn't need to hear me read it. He just gave it to me.
That's great.
It's astounding. I mean, now I know that it doesn't happen for actors. I was young enough then and naive enough to think, oh, I guess this is how karma works. Yeah, but it just happened that way. And I mean, I was reading this script and I was like, when he enters in the script, the character, there's like a 2-page screen direction that like pretty much is like Clint Eastwood entering into a Western. You just think, this is not me. How is this? And he just had an instinct and he gave it to me. And he had enough power at that particular time, at that budget level, to be able to do that, you know.
Amazing early indie films story from New York City.
Yeah, it was that period. You're absolutely right. And I've talked to people about this since that period ended. Mm-hmm. And it ended fairly soon after that. We made Henry Fool in '97. And by the 80s, even or by the 90s, by the aughts, by the early aughts, things had shifted and it wasn't quite the same as it was in the 90s. But I talked to Parker Posey about it at the time and since, you know, and she was sort of the poster. She was at the time, the year we made Henry Fool, Parker also made Guffman and Day Trippers and House of Yes and Suburbia.
Party Girl. Yeah,
Party Girl was a year or two before, but it was Henry Fool was like her 4th movie that year. And
yeah, I love how she yells in Henry Fool. Do you remember? Just yelling to her mom and
when she's oh, it's just so witty. It's just so witty and it looked like a couple weeks before we shot that we weren't going to get her. And it would have been a real loss because
she's great.
She's so wonderful in it.
So
that's how I got the film.
So in terms of
amazing.
So
like
Hal
something
Hartley,
out of a Hal Hartley movie.
Well, what?
Like something out of a Hal Hartley movie.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it was just.
So he contacts you. He says he's starting to shoot. He's planning to shoot this movie, and then he gets you the script. Did he have this character in mind, and he thought you were perfect for it, or did he kind of write you into this Henry Fool character? And did you have any input in terms of? I mean, not that you're gonna tell the writer director like, you know, I've got this vision for this character, but did you guys collaborate on realizing this the way he appeared on the ultimate movie?
Yeah, what happened was that the money was elusive. Not an unusual story, but the money was there and then the money was put, you know, the shoot kept getting pushed. So in this year or so in which the shoot was being pushed, he and I hung out a lot. And we would never read anything from this. I would never play the part, but we would go out drinking and I would say, you know, I was thinking this about that scene and I was wondering this about that. As he was writing music, he would share it with me. We just spent a lot of time, and this was sort of, for me in making films since, has always been like the template of how I like to make things with the director, because I'm not rehearsing, but just the time spent together is in fact the working relationship starting. And so it was pretty awesome. He was very open on that film to input, and I don't remember rewrites, but I remember a few. I remember a few things that I steered in a different direction. And by the time we were shooting, I had very strong acting opinions.
Mhm.
Very strong. And because I really felt like I understood this language, and that actually, for somebody who had never been in front of a camera and had a lot to learn, I also felt like I understood this character. And he was lucky to have me. And
That's the kind of confidence you need for that character. Henry is
well,
a
exactly.
confident character.
Yeah. In fact, I wrote him last week because I said, these guys want to talk about Henry Fool. And I wanted to write him because I didn't watch Henry Fool again, but I watched Fay Grimm again.
Mhm.
And I wanted to write him and tell him that I really liked it because it wasn't well received when it came out. And I wanted to tell him that. And he was like, oh, what are you going to talk about Henry? And I said, well, whatever they want to know. But we had an interesting, once we got on set, we had to feel each other out a little bit, you know. He's such a formal director, just in camera shots.
Mhm.
Lots of locked off shots in which there's a lot of blocking within the
A little
shot.
bit like theater, right?
Well, I thought so, yeah. But the requirements of a frame, I really didn't understand, you know, because it wasn't my medium.
Yeah, you're coming
So
from theater.
yeah, and so it was a tricky part because the character was theatrical in one sense, but if I was theatrical in a bad sense, like this is a theater actor who doesn't belong in front of a camera, that would be bad. But I couldn't, I absolutely couldn't sort of, I couldn't go by half measures. I had to go balls out for the whole thing and take the risk that it would be too much, too big, because the failure of it being too small, that would be a much worse failure. I'm playing Henry Fool. It's like, you've got to go for it. And you can't apologize for your presence. And the language is so big.
Yeah, he's a big character. Also, Simon, the other character, is starts off small and kind of stays small personality-wise. So you really need the contrast between the two characters.
Yeah, it's a delicious contrast. It's like Falstaff and I don't know who, or Laurel and Hardy or whatever. They're just, it's a great bit of writing and casting the two of us together, I think.
How did you like the response? So go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, it almost reminded me of, because James Urbaniak was so good as Simon, but the contrast reminded me of another film that he was in, Crumb, playing opposite. He was playing Robert Crumb opposite Harvey Pekar by Paul Giamatti, and I think there was a little bit of that in what you guys had, that same kind of chemistry.
Well, James James, you know, we go way back. We were in theater together way before Henry Fool. James is who he is. James is, and what he is beautiful, you know, and he just has a physical presence that will not be denied. I mean, it's like, there it is. He's not ever going to be a different, he's like, that's such an archetypical guy, and he's so perfect. And you know, he was so articulate in being inarticulate that it gave me the lane to be hyper articulate. And the combination was funny. I thought was very funny. And yeah. But the shoot was rough. I don't want to make you think that it was a breeze, because the shoot was challenging.
Yeah, you had to, people were getting thrown up on, all kinds of things were happening.
Oh my God, that poor girl being thrown up on. She freaked out on the day. She didn't want to do it. She didn't want to show her ass. All of which is okay, but it was just like they had a rig. That vomit looks so fake to me. They have this rig on his face and it's just like not working. And but she was really good. I thought she was really good.
Yeah, the scenes, you know, it looks realistic enough. How did you like the response when the movie came out? I think it was well received, right?
Yeah. You mentioned Toronto. The first time it was at Toronto very quickly. We shot it in May and it was in Toronto in September. And that was a really quick turnaround. And the Toronto screening was like a rock concert. He was all of his films had premiered there. And so there was like 1,200 people in the biggest theater in Toronto, and they went ape shit for the movie. And it sold to Sony Classics. And then it was like, they were going to put it out the next year. So then there was this long period. And then it got accepted at Cannes for the main competition. And this was the next year. Mm-hmm. So we'd been sitting around from September to May. And it got an amazing review in Variety. And I was like, well, this movie works, I guess. It's good. And so Cannes was just going to be like the cherry on the cake, I guess. And so we go out there, and I don't know if either of you have been there, but it's like they treat people who are in the main competition like they're Godard, just by the fact that you've been included in the main competition is, you're given a huge amount of respect. But I had been told that one of three things happens there. Either they applaud and bravo, they boo, or something in between, which is that they walk out. And so I was like, well, the movie works. I mean, we saw it last September. It's the same movie. Obviously, it's going to go well. And as soon as the movie began, I realized that it was in subtitles. And it was French subtitled. And I was like, oh my God, so much of the humor of this movie is in the intricacies of the language. Mm-hmm. Like I have a scene I think is so witty where I tell him the three kinds of there. Yeah. T-H-E-R-E there, T-H-E-I-R there, the donut people. And as it started, I was like, oh my God, this is not going to translate into French at all. And it played to total silence. And then suddenly I started hearing slamming at the back of the auditorium. And it was people walking out. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to make it known that they were walking out. So they would walk out and then they would slam the door in the back of the auditorium and it would reverberate. And I've since heard other people talk about this phenomenon. It's this French thing of, we love cinema, we are rejecting your film, and that out there. So even if only 20 people did it, it was like 20 door slams and loud. Film was received okay. But then Janet Maslin was there and she flipped over it. And in those days, that's what it took with an indie movie. Mm-hmm. In those days, if you got that, her review compared it to Nashville. She was really over the top about it. So that review then, goes outside the movie theaters in Dallas and Chicago and all these places. And art house nerds in those cities, they say, aha, we have to see this one because Janet Maslin wrote this piece. So it was well received, but it was, there are people who don't like it. That's then and now.
Now,
same with everything.
Now, I don't know if you went back to check up on any of these. I assume they're critics who went and slammed the door to make their feelings known. Once the movie kind of caught on, after Janet Maslin's review and sort of took on a life of its own of positive feedback, did you go back and look and see if anybody reevaluated the movie to say, oh, it was just, I was having a bad day. It's really a work of genius?
No, the French, we love the French because the French, they love movies.
Yes.
So even if they didn't like the film, I was so excited to be there. And I just sort of felt like, some of our greatest films have been booed at Cannes. It's a badge of honor. And so I was cool with it. Okay, a little nerve-wracking on the night, but I got over it.
Yeah, it's great to be selected for Cannes. And also, Hal Hartley was compared to Godard at some point. And so yeah, there's definitely French New Wave and other French film influences in Hal Hartley's movies.
Oh, yes, yes, he adores Godard. And I think by the late 90s, though, the French had gotten a little like, oh, come on, you're not Godard, you know. By the early 90s, they were flattered. By the late 90s, they had enough of that comparison, I think.
And then
But,
you acted in a digital movie with PJ Harvey, right? With Hal Hartley.
yeah, I really love that film. I don't know if either of you have seen it. I think it's wonderful.
I've seen parts of it, but I'm gonna watch it as soon as I'm done watching Henry Fool. And that was early on in the digital revolution, like early 2000s.
Yeah. Earlier, it was we made it 6 months after Henry Fool. That was my second movie, and it was supposed to. I think he wanted Vincent Gallo, and Vincent Gallo was being nervy and difficult, so it was me. But that was great because by then Hal and I spoke each other's language, and I really was comfortable on set with him, and they had he had this idea that the video, people who used video, digital shooting at that time were trying to make it look like film, which was really embarrassing because it didn't.
Yeah.
And so he and Jim Deneau, who shot it, were committed to investigating video. So it's a really good glimpse at what artistically could be done in 1998, shooting that way. And I think it's like a candy, that movie. It's a really beautiful piece of work, also very funny. Martin Donovan and PJ Harvey.
Yeah, I'd like to check it out.
Yeah, I have not had a chance to see it, but I was looking up your filmography and I saw The Book of Life from 1998, and it looks fascinating. Martin Donovan, I guess, plays a modern day Jesus, and you are Satan. So I got to definitely check that out.
We have a really long, me and Martin, really great Hal Hartley, typical Hal Hartley. Satan argues with Jesus.
Awesome.
About the Armageddon and the coming of 2000, which was really what the movie was about.
Yeah.
And PJ Harvey was great, and she never acted again.
Really low-key characters in low-stakes situations right there.
So let me just ask, because you just brought up, so PJ Harvey never acted again after that film. Was it just kind of like she got something out of her system, or did she not like the experience, or did you talk to her about it?
No, I think she liked it. I didn't know her. I mean, you'd have to ask her. I did a play with Ben Whishaw a couple of years ago, and they're best friends.
Well,
and so,
rock star, so
pardon me?
She's a famous rock star, so maybe she doesn't have the time really.
Well, who knows? I mean, she maybe she got it out of her system. Maybe he actually told me that she thought that doing a Hal Hartley movie would open up the doors of movie acting for her. And I said, well, I hope you disabused her of that idea, because it's not the way it works really. And she's a rock star, so what does she need it?
Yeah. And that's an interesting point that a lot of indie filmmakers even now think of New York indie film and Hollywood as a part of a linear continuum, but it's really, the indie world and the Hollywood world are really multiple different worlds. You're not necessarily going to get into Hollywood movies by being in really good indie movies.
Or some do,
Yes.
When I made Henry Fool, I did everything that, well, I didn't do everything, but I got a manager in LA, and it was decided that the thing I had to do immediately was get a big Hollywood movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was like a year spent of heavy labor on many people's part trying to get me a big Hollywood movie, and I got one. And I did it, and I was almost completely cut out of the movie, and I spent 4 months in Georgia with Will Smith and Matt Damon in a Robert Redford golf movie.
Hopefully no one.
And pardon me?
Hopefully no one got slapped.
Geez, he was so nice. I don't know what happened to him. It's been a rough 20 years, I guess.
He was just
He
having
was
a
really
bad,
sweet.
I think he was just having a bad day.
Yeah, clearly. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. It becomes its own job trying to, you know, massage this beast of being cast out in these giant productions. And when you are, sometimes you realize that it could be you or it could be anybody. Whoever is in the hot indie movie this year could be the person who gets that job. And as time goes by, you realize you aren't getting these jobs because of your unique talent. You're getting it because you were in a hot movie that year. And so they think that's a good person to put in that position. But I've also done some really good ones of those kind of things. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I just watched that last week again, and I hadn't seen that in a long time. I'm really proud that I have my little part in that. That movie holds up.
I need to rewatch that to see you in it.
Yeah, I have a very small part, but it was like a really creative, exciting. That was the first time I ever shot something with 2 cameras.
And now you're in Onur Tukel's movies. You've made it. That's once you're in Onur's movies, that's it. That's the high point.
I love that man.
Yeah, he's very talented.
I love that man. And we started badly, you know. I watched your interview, your guys talking to him, and he mentioned this movie, The Pigs. I was in that.
Oh.
And
yeah. Tough project. He said after that movie, he took off 10 years from filmmaking because it was so tough.
Yeah, I didn't know that until he told me later that that was true. But it was so bad that I was like, never again with this guy. I will never. And in the years that followed, I started watching his work and it got good. I mean, it got stronger and stronger. And I thought, well, the guy's a dick, but these movies are getting better and better. And he was always very nice to me. And he knew that I thought he was sort of a dick because he had been one on that shoot. But as the movies got better, we were talking about me working with him again. And I'm really proud of what we did whenever that was, Scenes from a Church.
Yeah, Ian, you have any questions about that movie? I haven't seen it in full.
Oh, I have a ton of questions about Scenes from an Empty Church, but you know that might be for perhaps a different time. I could do.
That's right.
I could do 6 hours on that.
We'll do another episode on that. So yeah, more on Henry Full then.
Well, but I do want to ask just a couple of things. What relationship had you had with Kevin Corrigan in between Henry Fool, in which, I mean, you have one scene together really in that movie, because that's pretty much Simon and Kevin's character, and then you kind of enter the picture later to sort of disastrous results. And then, you know, 22, 23 years later, you're playing priests together in Scenes from an Empty Church. Had you maintained a relationship in the ensuing decades, or was this sort of an unexpected like reunion?
I'd seen him a few times, but we also made another film called The Missing Girl. In which we sort of like Henry Fool had different threads of storylines in the film. So we didn't really interact too much, but I hung out with him there. I admire him so much, and I think he's such a brilliant actor. And when we made Henry Fool, I remember he was so natural that I thought he was drunk and couldn't remember his lines. I remember saying to someone, that's not the, when is he gonna, he doesn't know his lines. And they were like, no, those were the lines. He's just so easy and natural that it doesn't seem like acting. He's a great actor. So when we made the Onur movie, it was a dream come true, because we had this long history but didn't really know each other that well. So that experience on that shoot was like us exploring each other. Max Casella as well, but I didn't know him at all. But Kevin, I was just so thrilled to share the screen with and just to share those scenes. So, yeah.
It's nice that some of the same people from the 90s, 80s and 90s are still making work in New York in the indie film world.
Well, I have huge reverence for it. I wish I was doing more. I've just been doing so much theater. I've got to stop that.
Well, one thing that's happened since the early Hal Hartley days is indie film has become more like theater, where you could, I mean, Hong Sang-soo does this in Korea. He makes 4 movies a year about, and for like under 100,000, shoots them fast, they get good reviews. And even, I mean, even less than that, 20,000, 10,000, you can make a pretty decent movie these days. So I think a theater type scene is happening in indie film, where the ambitions are not to try to, you know, make an indie movie, have that be the ticket to Hollywood, but just to keep making indie work at a sustainable level. Onur's doing it, a bunch of other people are doing it. So I think you'll get more opportunities.
I do too. I do too. And I just want to be clear that that's what I want to be doing. You know, it's interesting because yes, it's much more affordable to make a film now than it was when I started, but it's also sometimes more casual. And I don't know that that's always good. I think that was something about the high pressure of shooting on 35 that was also helpful in a different way, because the event of doing a take was so expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it was really like, if you were going to run film through the camera, you needed, it was a precious moment. So everybody on crew was sort of holding their breath. The actors were ready for the moment. And now, you know, it's like shoot the rehearsal and, oh, somebody's laughing in the next room. It's, you know, so it can be hard to get that tension in the room. But I've had great experiences.
Yeah, to keep from getting too comfortable with video, is there an echo? We're okay, right?
A slight one.
Okay, is that from me or someone else?
From me or him?
Oh no, I think we're, is it gone?
That's gone now.
Okay, good, some kind of a delay. Anyway, yes, I still, when I'm editing and when I'm shooting, I like to maintain shooting on film type of conditions, quiet and attention, so that the work end result is good. Because, you know, at the end, people are going to compare the finished product to things that are shot for millions of dollars, things that are shot on film maybe. So yeah, you could still treat it in a serious way, but use video and make life easier on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's hard with crews because sometimes on these small budget productions, they're just not being paid appropriately. And you know, you're asking very young people sometimes to give a kind of respect or work really long hours, and I get it. That's hard.
But you should be like, it's cinema. Everyone quiet down. Get out of the way.
Some people do that.
That's right. Yeah,
I've witnessed it. I will not share names at this time.
Yeah. That's my approach. I'm like, only people who should be there and pay attention, put away your phones. We're making serious work, even though it's ultra low budget.
Well, and that's interesting that you say that. Is that something, Tom, that you've witnessed that has changed since you've been doing films? Because my kind of understanding of independent films and even bigger studio pictures going back decades was the idea of you're just kind of expected to work 14, 16, sometimes 20-hour days. And that's part of the thrill, the story of it. I mean, it sucks while it's going on, but people speak kind of, you know, almost nostalgically about that. But are you saying that you're maybe seeing a shift in what people are kind of willing to tolerate?
Oh, I don't want to be an old guy saying that the young kids don't pay, you know, they don't want to work. I don't think that's true, but I've always understood this world to be like you enter into a tunnel at the beginning of the shoot, and you understand that something familial is happening in that while you're going through there, and your life outside of the film goes away for that period of time. And I've found this always very enriching and exciting, and people are always running on fumes because you went over last night and I've been asked to push my turnaround, you know, and all of that. And you just pitch in and you do it. No, I haven't experienced a problem with that, really. Have you?
I haven't made a movie since
I
high school.
haven't. No, I haven't. I mean, in order to get a movie done, you do need that kind of focus, because there are so many people, so many locations, even a really tiny project, so many schedules. You do need to focus and make that the #1 important thing in your life while you're shooting and editing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people I know under 40 who do these movies make their money working on commercial sets or so, you know, things like that. And you can't begrudge somebody, you know, having to go shoot a commercial because they need to pay the thing. You're the director, I'm the actor. We have rather entitled positions on a set, as opposed to somebody who's I don't know, a camera operator or a PA or not to equate those two jobs, but I was going to say PA. I know small shows don't have that, but you know, I try to understand everybody from where they're coming from. But if they're making noise, I'm going to turn the table over.
Yeah, good idea. No, I had to tell a couple of people to stop texting.
It's hard. Texting is like, oh my God.
Yeah, because a lot of people are addicted to it. They're always on the phone. So soon you have to bring in the rule: no, you know, no cell phones during rehearsals or filming. But you know, people get it. People get it. They want to keep working, so they focus. Anyway, what are some of the current projects you're involved in now, and what are you looking forward to?
In the next weeks, I'm shooting a movie called Darla with Eric LaPlante and Susie Moon, who, and actually Onur's got a part in this movie too.
He's a good actor.
Because I think he's a fucking great actor, Onur. That's a very funny sort of science fiction-y thing. And then I have like 3 movies that are sort of operating in the same space, which is they're trying to get the money, you know, and it's like, one of them I'm very attached to that Ian Olds is going to direct and Paul Felton wrote, and that there's a great part in that for me, and they've really committed to keeping me there in it. But the money is just like, what is the producing model here? Because it can't really be made for $15,000. It needs 125 or 150. And what is the model of raising money? I don't understand all of that. But there's like 3 movies like that are, you know,
Coming together possibly.
Yeah, they'll be together this year, I think. Awesome. And that's really what I want to do. I really don't want to do any more theater. I've done so much of it, and it's taken me away from what I really want to do. So
you rather do indie movies where you don't have to stand around wait around for 4 months, and just keep working, doing good work on indie movies.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to work hard. You know, movies are great because you work really hard for a given amount of time, and then it's in someone else's hands, and you hope that it's a person with taste. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. You can't control that. It's not my movie. So, you know, it's like whoever you're working with, they either have, you know, some sort of poetry in their art, or they do not. But I'd just like to do a lot of them. As I'm getting older, I feel like that's an area where I have yet to make, where I could really age well, you know, where I could really be useful into my later years.
Hey, Woody Allen is like 150 now, and he's still making movies. So You got many years ahead of
Is
me.
that the comparison you're going to give?
No. Just for the level of productivity, because he's famous for making a movie after
I
another
know he
one
is.
after
I
another.
know, and I love Woody, and I you know, I don't know. Did you see
He's got some other problems going on also.
Did you see the movie with Timothy Chalamet that he made in Paris? No, in New York. It was in New York.
Yeah.
Did you see it? You saw it, Ian, right? I didn't see it.
Yeah.
The last Woody Allen movie I saw and liked was Midnight in Paris, which I thought was really, really good.
Oh yeah, Midnight in Paris blew me away because I think I just listened to his 1969 album Stand Up Comic, and I felt like Midnight in Paris was a feature-length riff on like a 2-minute bit from that stand-up from 40 years earlier or whatever. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Whatever legal and moral failings he may have, he has made some good movies.
Yes.
Yeah, I tried to get my hands on. Sorry, Ian. I was trying to get. wanted to show somebody Crimes and Misdemeanors. I couldn't find it.
Really?
Yeah, there's a
You
distribution.
can't stream it. You can't stream it. And
It's not available.
I was going to have to buy an old DVD or something. I was really shocked by that.
I hate that when a movie is unavailable to stream. So you go to eBay. This has happened to me a couple of times. You spend $40 on an out of print DVD, and 6 months later, there's like a brand new Blu-ray for a third of the price, and it comes on streaming.
Yeah, we had a similar thing happen with the David Lynch's Inland Empire last month.
Yes, exactly.
We can find it, so we're going to do a show on it. We can find it. Then now it's coming out, and they're going to release a video soon.
It's playing at the Music Box this week in Chicago.
Isn't it at the IFC right now? Isn't it at the IFC right now?
Yeah.
Is it going to be a Criterion? Is this a Criterion thing, or is this a package Criterion? Okay.
I think Janice and Criterion are working together to bring it out, or maybe it's Janice. I'm not sure, but someone is doing it.
So
should be done. It's a great movie.
Tom, I want to ask. So you've got some irons in the fire, I guess. You're waiting for things to come together. How are you, just as an actor, sustaining yourself? I know you've done some TV appearances and things like that, and the odd film here and there, but like,
I think you do a lot of theater, right?
Are you still in theater? Because it sounds like you're trying to break away from theater, but like
Well, theater ended with the beginning of the pandemic. Theater ended. I was on Broadway in a play, and we were done. And so that's sort of, I mean, that was such a jarring thing. I have a lot of friends in theater, and I have a lot of work that I can have, I hope, still there if I want it. Maybe you guys will understand this. After Henry Fool, all the best people in movies didn't suddenly want to work with me. It wasn't like Lars von Trier called me, and it wasn't like, you know, whoever else I would have, you know, it wasn't like Terrence Malick was on the phone. But in theater, all the best people wanted to work with me.
Awesome. So
it was one of these things where it was like, would you rather be in a great play or a bad movie? If the choice is between a great play and a great movie, if the choice is a great play or a great movie, I'll pick the movie. But if the choice is between something brilliant with one of the best directors working in the theater at a high budget that pays me well, or sit around hoping for something that in films that might work or might not. For 20 years, I've chosen theater because I've been doing really interesting work there. But I just feel like there's a part of my career that has gone unexplored, and I think I need to be free to do it. You know, I just need to be there.
So a whole bunch of new films coming up soon, let's hope. You're a great actor, so I think people will be foolish not to use you now that you're available.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask, as I mentioned, I was looking through your IMDb, and you have done some TV work. So how do you feel about like episodic television, and would you want to do a series at all, or do you just want to?
Yes, I would like to. There's, you know, when we talk about television, we're always thinking about how much great television there is now. And it's true, there's, you know, comparatively good TV now, but there's still a lot of terrible TV. I would love to do a series. I would love to play a part where I was in the front. All I've done, all you've seen on IMDb is episodic television where you get hired as a guest star. And I don't think there's anything harder than that. Henry Fool was so much easier than doing one day on, I don't know, Elementary or Madam Secretary or whatever these are. You know, I hate these things. They're even if the part is written okay, it's just so stressful. It's just really stressful. I mean, they call and they say, okay, a week from Tuesday, you're going to do it. And you spend, this happened to me on one of these. They auditioned it in December and we weren't going to shoot it till mid-January because of the holidays. So I got the part and I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to make $20,000 for one day of work in January. That's great. And right, what could be wrong with that? The script wasn't bad. And I had 3 scenes. So I thought, well, the one thing I can do is learn the lines. So I'm going to learn the lines. And then it's always a mistake in television because the draft you get in December has nothing to do with what they're going to shoot in January. And I was playing a lawyer and I had all these terms like, you know, Schwartz and Steinbaum, attorneys at law sent this memo to Mr. So-and-so, and all these names and names of offices and businesses. None of this had been vetted by the lawyers yet for the show. So 2 days before you get new pages and it's all been, they've just changed the names and they've changed the things. And so you're like, oh, fuck me. What, I can't relearn this now in 2 days. And then your call is 4:30 in the morning and you go and it's like going to somebody else's party where, you know, everybody knows each other, but you're a stranger and it's just stressful. I hate that work. I'd always take it and I'm always grateful for it. But Henry Fool being my first time in front of a camera was like, wow, I went to work every day. I went to dailies once a week. I was with the crew. We all became really close. The actors, I could have a bad day on Wednesday and then Thursday have a good day and trust that it had cut together all right in the end. Television's not like that.
Are you surprised that Henry Fool has had such lasting power that people are still talking about it 20, 30 years later? Because 98 was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it to us because we've been living, you know, since 98.
Right, with two, yeah.
Or for kids who are born in year 2000, year 2010, you know, 98 was a long time ago.
Well, it's a good movie, and I think it's prescient. I wish it were more remembered.
Maybe it'll come back. Let's see. This interview will do it.
Yeah, I would like that movie to be on Criterion. I would like that movie to be appreciated as the sort of mountain that it was. I mean, it's really, somebody at the time called it the indie epic. And I kind of feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours, 15 minutes long, and it covers so much. The rise of one character, the fall of another character. So many themes about writing and fame in it. One of the themes is the sudden, you know, being discovered as an artist, and while, you know, tolling away, thinking you're a genius, one character, and the other person being an actual genius. When, you know, after the success of Henry Fool, did you feel like you're kind of living in that kind of a that kind of a world because the movie was so well received?
No, I was just, I was excited and optimistic that it would open up more chances for me to work, and it really has. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything I've done since in any medium that wasn't influenced by having done that movie. And so I'm grateful for it, and most people aren't remembered for anything. So if I'm remembered for a movie I made when I was 35 in 1997, I'm okay with that. I think it's a good, it speaks well for me.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll be quiet and ask some questions.
Well, I've got two more to kind of close things out from my end. One is, you had mentioned earlier when you were talking about The Legend of Bagger Vance, that was the Will Smith golf movie, Matt Damon, and then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. These were the big movies. You know, you got a manager and all that. You kind of gone the Hollywood route, but 25 years on, you're back doing like theater and independent films and TV. Was there a moment where you just decided, you know, this Hollywood stuff it's not for me? They don't have what I'm looking for, and I don't have what they're looking for, whatever. I'm just going to go and create art, essentially. Was there a moment there, or was it just kind of a gradual thing where like, I'm just going to go back to New York?
I have no problems with being in, it's not Hollywood movies, whatever that means, really. It's, the right situation hasn't come. Like I was just I came very close to a very big Hollywood movie just a couple months ago that I ultimately didn't get. And and it was like a situation where I knew the part was perfect for me. And I did the audition, and then I did a 45-minute Zoom with a very famous director who I'm not going to even tell you who it is. But and it went really, really well. But when it was over, I was like, you know what? Because this has happened to me a few times. It's going to be between me and two other guys. And those two guys are going to have been in 5 Netflix movies in the last 2 years. And I will not have been. So it's nothing about me or my acting or what they want that I don't have. It's about the fact that at some point I redirected my work into a field that movie people just don't care about and that doesn't register there for them. And that's not their fault. It's not their problem. It's just sort of, and if it's anybody's fault, it's mine. But I enjoyed all the work I've been doing these years. So yeah, I would be in Hollywood movies, I'm quite sure, if I had made different choices myself 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And I may be in them in the future, but it was not a conscious choice. I would love to be doing that work if I had really good parts, you know, and in this one I'm speaking about, I would have had a really great part.
I'm sure you'll be in a bunch of great movies in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. You can direct me in one.
Definitely. I'll email you and we'll get the process started.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. You got to check out Breakthrough Weekend, and the part that he's thinking of for you, I think, would be amazing. But
it's a detective with some mental powers.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So my last question regards Henry Fool specifically. There's a scene towards the end of the movie where you were acting with Christy Carlson Romano, who I knew, you know, as you know, she was on a Disney show called Even Stevens with Shia LaBeouf. This was a few years after Henry Fool, of course. I don't know how old she was, but she was playing a 13, 14-year-old character. And I don't want to spoil everything for those who haven't seen Henry Fool. You should do it right now, or not right now, but after the show's over. But there's a very uncomfortable, tense scene between you and her character. I just wonder, was there, especially because this is your first film, any trepidation about doing that kind of material with an actress who has to deliver the lines that she had to deliver? What was that like?
My memory of that was that Hal and I read with most of the actors the auditions for most of the bigger parts, but not that one. And she never read those lines or said them in an audition. So he hired her. I had not met her, but 2 weeks before we shot the whole film, we had 5 days when we rehearsed. Different actors would come in at different times and we would rehearse. And she came in with her mother, and her mother stayed in the room. And they'd obviously made a decision. I mean, when an underage child is going to do something like that in a movie, that's a decision that happens among guardians and family, and there's no surprises.
Mhm.
And she was scared, and I tried to put her at ease, but I think just my presence was a little frightening. So, you know, but Hal was good with her. And I think that scene, I think it's shot mostly in singles. I think when she has to say that to me, I think she's in a single. I don't think it's a 2-shot.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, and I think, if my memory serves, that I was just sitting across for the eye line, across the room. She didn't have to play it like in the heat of the moment, she could just say it as a line. And that's my memory of that. She was a trooper. She was really good. And I don't know if that's one element of the film that I think we would get into more trouble with now.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that I'm playing a convicted pedophile who is sort of a hero in the movie, but it's a lot of things that I don't think would fall out the same way.
The 90s were different, kids. It was a different time.
Well, that's one of the fascinating things about the film, is that information happens so far into the movie that you're right. Henry Fool is this sort of a weird traveling Bukowski-esque kind of a lovable like asshole, but you're on his side in a strange way. He kind of becomes oddly sympathetic. So when this information comes out, you're like, oh no, you're like you're not mad at him, but you're kind of disappointed that you can't have him on this pedestal.
Yeah,
well, you can't.
We had 7 years in jail, so.
Well, yeah. Right, but that was, to me, you're hitting now onto the heart of what I loved about the character, and what I think we ran into trouble with a little bit in the sequels, which is the complete ambiguity of his moral character. In that first movie, is he brilliant, or is he just some slob who's a blowhard? Is he valuable to the town and something that enables people to reach their higher potential when they meet him, or is he bullshit? Can you still like him after you find out that information? Even the last shot of the movie, is he running toward the plane? Is he running back away from the plane? So I always thought, oh, this is really exciting, because in a way, giving you that information that late in the film is daring you to face that problem. Do you think he's still funny? Do you think he's still charming? That information about the pedophilia, incidentally, is revealed by me in a very tight close-up, almost a monologue that I have. And Hal had a sponsorship. What is that when you have product placement?
Product placement.
With Budweiser.
Yes.
And in that very tight close-up where I say, I don't know what I say, but it's a really well-written thing, but it's where I reveal she was I was in jail for 7 years because of a 13-year-old girl named Susan. She was an ugly and mean-spirited girl, but she knew how to play upon my weaknesses, which I admit are deep and varied.
Yes.
That was the line. It all just came back to me. And in the middle of that sentence, in this really tight close-up, that was the only tight close-up like that I had in the whole film, a 6-pack of Budweiser swings into the frame, and I grab one and open it and drink. I was like, this was not what these people thought they were signing up for when they agreed to have their product used in our movie.
This bud is not for you.
Hopefully they didn't.
Very
see
good,
it.
Ian. Very good.
I tried.
Hopefully they didn't see it. And since the movie got out, I think it was probably okay.
Yes.
And I don't think we hurt Budweiser.
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, Hal Hartley is a great filmmaker. Henry Fool is a great movie, and Tom did great work on it, and also 2 other films, same character. So everyone should check all those out. Also, check out Onur Tukel's movies, Onurtukel, 2 words. Tom is in Scenes from an Empty Church, recent movie. And yeah, a lot of good stuff to catch up on New York City indie film.
And I just want to say, Tom, I seriously do want to have another conversation about Scenes from an Empty Church, maybe even with Onur, if we can rope him in. But
Yeah.
I watched it again last night, and it is my favorite film of 2021.
Wow.
It profoundly affected me both times I watched. And I watched it last night with my wife, and she was like, "Okay, you want to watch a movie about what now?" I'm going to sit and do my shopping list. At the end of the hour and 40 minutes, the shopping list was not touched. We both were just, again, enraptured by it, no pun intended. But yeah, so it's been a huge pleasure talking with you, and thanks for agreeing to do this. Thank you, Onur, for making the connection with Sujewa, and Sujewa for hooking all this up. But
And
yeah,
let's do a future episode with Onur, like you said, the 4 of us, about Scenes from an Empty Church. I'll watch it, and then we can talk about it.
definitely.
I would love that. I really love the movie, and it means a lot to me that you thought that, Ian. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, you're
And
welcome.
also, Tom, I'll email you about, we'll meet up in Brooklyn. I'll show
Yeah,
you.
let's do it.
I'll
Let's
send
do
you
it.
links, and let's see
Okay.
let's see what we can work on. I want to try.
I'd love it.
Great. I want to try to make 3-4 movies a year, Hong Sang-soo style.
That's the one thing Onur does that is amazing to me. I don't know where he gets his money. He seems to pull it together, and is just like just product.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
he's amazing. Thank you guys. I enjoyed talking.
All right. Well, thank you.
Is there more?
No, I think that's it, except check down below. Tom, are you on like social media? Do you have any place that people can come to
Insta.
find more about
I'm
you?
just on Insta. I don't
Okay.
do anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will- I'll
Yeah,
say
but-
I'll link to that down below, along with our interview with Onur that we've been talking about a bit. And yeah, best of luck, and hope to talk to you again soon. And Sujewa, I'll let you have the final word, sir.
Yeah, you could Google Tom, and he's on IMDb. And yeah, you can Google Hal Hartley movies. Thanks a lot, Tom, for coming on. We will have you back on again, and I'll see you in Brooklyn soon. I'll email you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Excellent.
Have a good
great
night.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You too.
Bye. All right.
Bye-bye.